My name's Michelle Hogan. I live in Sydney in the southern suburbs, and I'm 21 weeks pregnant with my second baby. It was a well thought out decision and a lot of investigation when I first found out I was pregnant with my first baby, who was a home water birth at home. And I used Susan's book Birthright extensively, because at first I thought, well, how on earth do I make this decision? How do you research something like this? There seemed to be a lot of pressure to make appointments and book in the minute you knew you were pregnant, or you'd miss out on the good obstetricians or the birth centre, or everything got booked out, and this incredible pressure to make decisions on something so important when I really didn't know anything about it at all, or where to go, or what to do, other than a few stories or things from friends. So that book was like gold, and I read it from front to back a couple of times, and that really armed me with, now I know what to ask, now I know what to do, and even the concept of, oh, I can actually interview an obstetrician, or I can interview a midwife, and I know what to ask, and when I do this hospital tour and investigate things. And until that point, I would never have thought of the questions she put forward, and they were great questions, and certainly got some interesting responses, or lack of response, or a bit of shock that this person's rocking the boat, what are they saying here? But it allowed me to really be clear on the fact that I didn't want to, or hoped not to have to go through a hospital birthing experience in a standard delivery room. I understood then that there weren't going to be any midwives really supporting me in the way that I had imagined, or being there for me, and how important it was to have a doula, because that was your support. And certainly a birth centre birth for me was, at least if in a hospital environment, was the way to go, or the only option to go with if I didn't want to have a home birth. The book Birthright covers everything from making your decision about how to pick a care provider for your birth, be it obstetrician or midwife, and covers all the way through to if you're confronted with a situation that may require caesarean, or some level of intervention that maybe we don't know much about when we're having our first baby, and we've heard the words and don't really know what does it mean, what are the implications of this, and how does it happen, how do I get to a point where that might be an option that's presented to me. So it covers everything in a very unbiased way, and just providing information, suggestions for questions to ask, where to go to get more information. And I found that such a great platform to get everything I needed to know, and then how to look further and where to look further. When someone says, oh, make wise choices, you think, well, of course we all want to make wise choices on everything in our life, especially about having our babies. But how do I do that? Birthright for me was the only place, after looking at lots of books and trying to find out where I could get information, that gave me really easy to read. It is not a big book, it's a good sized font. It was just really easy for me to pick up after a long day, feeling tired, being pregnant, and just flick through and get the answers that I needed. And it helped my husband too, because I was keen on a home birth from the very get-go. I felt confident that my body's designed to have babies. Why shouldn't it be able to have babies easily and readily? My baby knows what to do, how to come out, so go for it. But my husband didn't quite have that same level of confidence, and was a bit scared about what that would mean and the safety and security of it. So we at first then chose a birth centre, which was at the St George Hospital Birth Centre. But after doing some classes with Susan, some prenatal and some hypnobirthing classes, my husband just turned around, and finally getting the information he needed gave him the confidence. And he turned around and said to me, I think we're crazy to even contemplate jumping in the car and going somewhere other than home to have our baby. So that's when I became part of the home birth program that, fortunately for me, the birth centre offered. So I was able to join that, and that's how I had my baby, which was fantastic. The combination of reading the book, but at the same time being in communication with Susan Ross, and then acquiring her as our doula, and or knowing I had a doula, so someone to go through and bounce off the information I was getting, to get feedback on what does this mean, or what are the implications of this? Someone who gave me the confidence to know that, you know, you can book in at a few different places, just cancel the one you decide you don't like. And I'd never thought even about doing that. So having her there as kind of my buddy, my doula, my support person, gave me the confidence to follow through with the questions that I wanted to ask, the things that I'd read in Birthright, and it just backed that up incredibly, and then certainly supported me then through the rest of my pregnancy, and led to hypnobirthing classes that my husband and I took, which were just a godsend, just fantastic. And I truly couldn't imagine having a baby without a doula, and certainly not without hypnobirthing. I don't know how women do it without that, and I guess I can understand how maybe their only option does seem to be drugs or epidurals, or it snowballs into a lot more intervention. Without that support, it's just priceless, and you realise when giving birth it's different to what the midwives are able to provide. It's not an alternative to a midwife. It's a unique position of its own, and I think almost criminal that all women don't just get a doula, irrespective of where they are and socioeconomic reasons or what have you. I think it should just be standard. Women deserve it. But certainly when you go into having your baby for the first time and those surges start and you know everything's happening, it can be a little overwhelming. And it was so good to have that information to hand, to have the prompts to remember breathe, different types of breathing. And then having a doula there, being Susan in my case, who was also able to help coach me through that and remind me of what I've learnt. And to my amazement, I just went into this zone where I was just completely relaxed, and a little part of me had worried, oh, what if it works for everyone but not for me? Being a first baby, I just wasn't sure if all the practice I'd done was actually in the reality of the event going to work, and I kind of shocked myself that it did. And just like all the ladies you see on the DVDs and reading the stories, had my head resting on the edge of the pool and looked like I was asleep, to the point that one of my girlfriends, who's had 2 bubs and asked to have a look at our birth video, was asking me why I had mute on and where was the sound. And I said, no, it's all on. And she said, but you're not screaming. And I said, well, no, I'm having a baby and I'm using hypnobirthing techniques and I've got a fabulous doula. And she said, but you look like you're asleep. And I said, that's the point. And then the baby just came out and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. But that's hypnobirthing. It's just magic and beautiful and makes having a baby a pleasure.